Ready? Hello, welcome to Geeks Unleashed. This is episode 90. I am Mark.
And I'm Jasmin.
90 episodes. I actually can't believe that. They're 10 away from 100.
God, we talk a lot.
If we hadn't had a break, we'd be at 100 now or thereabouts.
We're pretty close.
I think we would be I think we'd be close to 100, not on 100.
Yeah.
So,
I forget.
Yeah.
We changed the order of this. I'm still not used to it. Okay, so before we get started, if you are watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. We would also appreciate it if you would subscribe to our channel and click that little notification bell so that you know when we upload new videos. If you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, we are grateful for that as well. We would also appreciate a 5-star review if you leave that on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or Spotify. That would be great.
On this week's episode, we are reviewing Sony's Marvel villain movie, Morbius. So beware, we're going to spoil all of it for you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking forward to this. Before we jump into it, this week, by the way, we're not going to do any news. We had, there wasn't really any news that we actually cared about.
Not much, no.
There wasn't really that much. Things happen.
Quiet week.
Obviously. Things obviously always happen. I mean, I say that, in the real world, there's still that Ukraine stuff and Russia, and obviously that's massively important. But we obviously don't ever really tend to, cover current affairs.
To nerd news.
We stick to nerd news.
World news to others.
NBC and BBC,
those
and
guys.
they can do that. Yeah, those professionals.
I can assure you, no one is listening to our podcast for our astute political commentary. No one.
In fact, I think somebody once did say to us, leave the politics alone. I was like, okay. No, but there wasn't any real worthwhile pop culture news that I saw. And I don't think you didn't see anything either. It was
nothing.
It's very quiet.
No.
Probably they know Easter's coming. So
hopefully they'll take it easy on us.
But we did have an idea of something we're going to substitute. We'll do it in a minute, but we'll see how this works. It could just go down in flames, or
it's going to be hilarious either way. Don't worry.
Well, hopefully. Anyway, so before we jump into that, you've obviously come back from all your travels, Jasmin, before you go traveling again.
I know, right? I was home for 6 days and then on the road again. So I was home long enough to catch up on some things. I finished out the first season of Sasaki Miyano. So cute, such a cute anime. I really, really enjoyed those few episodes that I was behind on. And I watched an anime on Netflix called Kotaro Lives Alone, which honestly, I feel like based on any anime I have ever seen, Japanese kids don't have parents. There's so many manga about kids that live by themselves, and I'm just like, how? And so this whole Netflix series, it's based on a manga, but it's a Netflix original anime, and this kid is literally 4 years old. He rents his own apartment. He cooks for himself and for his neighbors. It is the most ridiculous and over the top thing, but it is still so cute and so endearing. So anyone looking for a feel good kind of thing, it gets a bit heavy at some parts because there is a reason that this kid lives by himself at 4 years old. But if you're looking for something to pass the time on Netflix, Kotaro Lives Alone. It's fun. It was a good time. I enjoyed it.
I think I've seen that. Not watched it, but saw it on Netflix.
Yeah, popping up on Netflix.
Like they tried to do. You said about kids living alone in animated stuff, though. They do that even in just live action stuff. If you put on Nickelodeon, there's there's a show. I can't remember the name of it now. My kids love it. I think it went on for 2 or 3 seasons, and it's set in Amsterdam, and it's a bunch of kids that, for the most part, seem to live on their own. Their parents weren't in the first season. And then I don't know about the second or third, but I know that my kids loved it. But there's so many shows like that where the parents are just not around. They just leave 12 to 17-year-olds just in a house, doing their own stuff, and it's my parents have gone away. Oh yeah, of course they have. Also left a 12-year-old in the house on their own. Like,
I mean, you didn't get left alone at 12?
I mean, maybe for like half an hour, like not for like 3 weeks or something. Like, while I'm
No,
also
not
at the
for
same,
3 weeks. No.
also while I'm doing a murder investigation.
Well,
'Cause that's
yeah,
what.
no, I definitely didn't do any murder investigations. But like, if my parents went away for a weekend, then sometimes they would leave me home alone. This was before I had a brother, of course.
What the brother just showed up.
Well,
one day.
yeah. Nobody asked me if I wanted a brother. It was just like, oh, hey, by the way, you're getting a brother. It's like,
No,
screw you guys.
It's the way you worded it. Like, oh, like you were 12 years old and suddenly this 15-year-old brother just walked through the door. It's like, where did this guy come
No,
from?
my brother and I, there is a big age gap between me and my brother. So I was an only child for a very long time, and then all of a sudden I had a brother. So
what's the gap?
11 years.
Oh wow, you must have really been annoyed.
Yeah, pretty much was. But we basically both grew up as like only child, because by the time he was old enough, like I was already off in college. So
but now do you notice it or not?
The age difference?
Yeah.
No, it's gotten better. Now we actually are old enough that we have like stuff in common.
Yeah, all right, okay. What like the same parents?
Like, beer.
Who's your mum and dad? Well, the same as yours.
Although I did have to tell my brother, because like my brother follows me on Instagram, and so like when I was traveling, I did have a little accident and kind of got banged up a bit, scratches, bruises, cuts, all that good stuff, and I posted about it on Instagram, but I didn't tell my parents on purpose. And apparently my brother told my mom, and she called me and she was frantic, and I was like, I'm fine. And then I texted my brother.
I missed that. I didn't see you post that. Like,
oh yeah, so I did a bit of mountain climbing. I also did a bit of falling down the mountain on the way
I didn't
down.
know that. I missed that.
Yeah,
I missed that post. Sorry. I hope you're okay.
Well, I am still bandaged up. It's been just over a week now. I'm still got some bandages on. But anyway, like I didn't tell my mom on purpose because I didn't want her to worry. And then my stupid brother went and told my parents that I fell down the mountain, and my mom was so upset. And I was like, this is why I didn't tell you. And she was like, oh my God, did you go to the hospital? Are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. So yeah. There was definitely a conversation between me and my brother after that. I said, look, what I post on Instagram is none of my parents' business, all right? Don't be telling them all my stuff.
I know my mum follows me on Instagram now, so it's like, she's been following me for about a year now on Instagram. I'm like, she won't go onto Facebook, but she used to moan at me, like some of her friends are on Facebook, not on Instagram. And she'd moan at me saying she doesn't like me posting stuff and them knowing about it. And I went, okay, well, what do you want me to do about it? And she goes, well, can you not remove them? I'm like, Mum, that's a bit rude to like just remove people. Like, because or she's like, well, block them then. I'm like, that's even ruder. Like
I disagree. I block people on different platforms. So like,
no, but what I mean is like, I don't mind her friends. Like I've known most of her friends for like most of my life. So I'm like, I don't mind that they see what I'm doing. It's you that has the issue. Like, so like if you choose not to go on social media, so and so she's gone on Instagram now, mainly I think so she can like get the information straight away. Like if I post,
she doesn't want any surprises, okay? That's the thing.
I don't put my life on there. So I actually had this conversation with someone the other day, because some people just put like when they're having like a poo or a bacon sandwich or whatever, and I'm like, I just put when I've done something. Like I don't know, like when I went to in the week
when you went on your cruise to Bruges.
Well, yeah, when I went on my cruise a couple of weeks ago, or when I went to England play the other day against the Ivory Coast, like first ever live England game, and I took my daughter there, and so I do stuff like that. I post more like when I've done something. Like I don't want to post that I've just eaten a bacon sandwich. Like no one cares. Like
I posted about like climbing up the mountain because I've never done that before. I also posted about falling down the mountain because I'd never done that before either.
Well, yeah.
First time for everything.
I don't know. Some people like I see like post a picture of like they just made their bed, and I'm like, no one cares.
I make my bed every day. Like that's not Instagram worthy.
Yeah. No one cares. No one cares. Like I don't know. Like for me, I'm like, just yeah, I think it's just I do something and I'll post it. And I say when I do something, I mean something like normally outside of the house. Like I don't mind posting the odd house photo, like if I get like a cute photo of my kids or something. But like I try to
or your dog,
oh
Cooper.
Yeah, I mean he's going past cute stage now.
That is
like,
not true. He's still really cute. He's like in that 1-year-old dog like phase. He's still cute.
We were at my mum and dad's on Saturday and he was in their garden. The dog next door barked. Honestly, he crapped himself, ran straight into the house. He ran straight into the house and jumped straight up on my lap. And I was like, everyone, my mum, dad, everyone was like, he's so cute. I was like, he's not.
You are the only one that doesn't like Cooper. Everyone else likes Cooper.
The weird thing is, he seems to like me the most, and I'm like the one who cares the least.
I keep telling you, if you bring Cooper to New York, I'll take Cooper.
I like walk that dog 2-3 hours a day. I spend the most amount of time with it, and I'm really not that bothered. I try, when I say this, I sound like I'm really horrible. I am very loving to him. I stroke him, feed him, play games with him. But like, if we didn't have a dog, I wouldn't be bothered either way.
It's a good thing your kids don't listen to this podcast.
Oh yeah, they're the ones who love him the most. Well, especially my 8-year-old. My 8-year-old seems to really love him. So anyway, what I actually watched this about 2 weeks ago, but I forgot to mention it. The Batman, Robert Pattinson's The Batman.
And you were super excited about it.
I was so excited. I was trying to get you to go and see it, but I know you were super busy. And but what I would say is, now I know there's been real mixed opinions. I know it's done financially really well, so there's a high chance it's going to be a sequel, unfortunately. So I did not enjoy this film. I thought this is way too long, 3 hours. Like now, I'm pro long films, like when you got good world building and like stuff like that, because I think sometimes that's why I prefer a lot of TV series to movies, because I quite like when they
take their time,
get into the characters and stuff like that. I don't like 22 episode shows, but when it's like HBO 8 to 10 episodes or Stars or BBC, they don't tend to be
sweet
more
spot.
Like something around somewhere between 6 and 10. Like I've been watching, I'll come to it in a minute, but Snowpiercer, I finished season 3 this week. 10 episodes, season 3. I would argue that should have been 5 or 6 episodes this season. Like
that few, huh?
Yeah, I personal opinion. Like I don't know what other people's thoughts are, but I'll come to Snowpiercer in a minute. But anyway, the Batman. So I was like really excited to see it, and I know a lot of people like Robert Pattinson. They were like, "Oh, Twilight," and I was like, "No, look." I thought to myself, I'm not going to judge this movie purely based on 4 or 5 films that he did when he played a no personality vampire, like. Because
that's a really polite way of putting it.
Like, but he was playing if you think about it, he was playing a no personality vampire from a book that had no personality.
Absolutely.
So he was actually playing that role well. Unlike Kirsten Stewart, I think, who was playing herself.
I actually think she's better than that. Like, I really like Kristen Stewart in Panic Room.
Oh, I've not seen that.
It was when she was still a kid, though, like a younger kid. I think
she was in
like
that
7 or 8.
She was in that space version of Jumanji as well, but she had a minor role in it. There's a space version of Jumanji, like there was a board game where they go to space.
Oh, Zathura.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. She had a minor role.
I've never seen that.
Anyway, I was just joking about Cousin Stuart. I actually don't really mind Cousin Stuart. So I was going to go into this film with open. I did go into this film with open eyes because no expectations of him being terrible. Like I was thinking, because I thought he was good in Tenet. I liked him in Harry Potter. And you know that film we watched last year with Tom Holland?
Horrible film.
Yeah, it was horrible. But if you think about his acting, how different he was. I can't remember what it was called. It was The Devil or something or other.
Devil All the Time.
Yeah. So, but he actually again played that role really well. Like, wasn't he like
he was a
horrible preacher or something? Yeah. Wasn't he like a paedophile preacher or something? Like or sleazy preacher or something. But again, he played the role well. Although it was a horrible film and a horrible role, he was believable as like a sleazy preacher. Like I was completely on board with his horribleness. So what what. So when I went into this film, I thought, do you know what? He's played a variety of roles really well. So probably my favorite role was actually him in Tenet. I thought he was really good in Tenet. Have you seen Tenet?
Nope.
I would, if you're going to watch it, don't do it tired and don't do it drunk. Seriously,
that sounds
you
like
have
a
to.
terrible combination.
No, like I'm saying, don't do either of those things. Like, because you have to really concentrate. Like, it's a film.
From all of his films.
Well, oh yeah, I know. But honestly, seriously, Tenet was really complicated. It's really good, but really complicated. Anyway, so the Batman, I've gone in so many different ways here. So the Batman, I went into it thinking, okay, I'm going to give Rob Pattinson a chance. Now, I wouldn't say I hated his Batman. The minimal amount of time we got with Bruce Wayne, though, I thought he was awful. It was like emo kid Batman. Like, to me, it was like teenager Batman. It was almost like Batman Jr. Like,
okay, all right.
He was very emo Bruce Wayne, which was not a version of Bruce Wayne that I'd ever seen. Now, I know from what I've heard, apparently they were trying to go with this film just being mainly around the Batman, not Bruce Wayne. And that pretty much was obvious. I would say like maybe 90% of this film was Batman, and then maybe 10% was Bruce Wayne, or even less than that, maybe 5% was Bruce Wayne. I'm sure there's some geeks out there that have already worked that out. And there was one scene where he is Bruce Wayne, like in his Batcave, and where, you know how Batman tends to have like black makeup around his eyes because the mask obviously doesn't fully cover. Like, and it was kind of like just sort of running down his face. Like, and I was like, is it necessary that we've got a My Chemical Romance?
Yes.
Bruce Wayne, like, it's for me not.
Apparently, it was.
And then his fight scenes, like, I don't know, like they were kind of weird. Like, so when I used to love like with Christian Bale, suddenly like Christian Bale would be like in the corner and then jump down and sort of have martial art type skills. This Batman didn't have any sort of martial arts. It was a lot of punching, and like he'd kind of just walk into a room rather than like a cool entrance. I know they were trying to make it cool where he would just walk out from the shadows and he'd just walk in. Like, I don't know. And I didn't mind necessarily that this version of Batman was new, because I think there was a comment in the film that he'd been Batman for like 2 or 3 years or something. There's one time where he was going across the city and he kind of trips over and Batman ends up rolling across the street. That didn't particularly bother me, because I thought, okay, this is like Batman Jr., you know, he's kind of new on the scene. Like, no, I know I'm taking the piss a bit there, but what I mean is, like, you don't always see a lot of these films. You go into Batman being really cool and already like 5 years in or whatever. I didn't necessarily mind that he was quite early to being Batman. That didn't bother me too much, but I don't know. The Bruce Wayne stuff really put me off. I didn't like the fighting because I thought, well, Batman tends to have, you know, in the comics has been trained by ninjas and, you know, and has got those skills. And I'm not really seeing this. I'm just seeing someone who's just a guy who fights. Like, I didn't mind the style of the film. Like, I found the cinematography really cool. I thought that was good. I liked, I've forgotten her name, the lady who played Catwoman. I thought she was good.
Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. I don't know. I just found the film really boring. Like, it was just, I think some people would say, well, it's much more of a detective style Batman, but I was like, yeah, but then do we need to have 3 hours of that? Like, you know, maybe 20 minutes. Always the question. 20 minutes of action maybe spread out throughout the film, and that's mainly what they pushed in the trailers, was the sort of the action side. They didn't, and of course what they're trying to do is make it flashy. I saw quite a few people walk out of the film after like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Throughout that 3-hour film, I honestly really struggled to stay awake. Like, that was something I really struggled with. My eyes were going, like, and that's not a good sign.
What time did you go see it?
I think the film was like 8 o'clock at night.
Oh yeah, why would you pick that late to go see a long movie?
I thought I would love it, so I didn't think it would be an issue. So I don't know.
Mark's glowing endorsement of the Batman.
I remember like saying to a few people who didn't go, I was like, only go if you need to sleep. That was kind of what I said.
Yikes.
I
was never excited about the film. The trailers never did anything for me, never piqued my interest. It was always going to be the I'm just gonna wait for this to hit HBO Max. Like that's always where I've been with this movie. So
what I would
I got
say
a couple
is,
more weeks and then I can watch it myself.
what I would say is it's probably worth watching, but what I would do is split it up into 1 hour a night, into like a mini series. So I do think it is worth watching. Like there are good moments in it. I wouldn't say it's the worst film ever, but it's not the best Batman film. Like,
well, I mean, it's hard to be worse than freaking nipples on the Batsuit. Thank you, Joel Schumacher.
like Bruce, what's his name, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
When those films, you know, when Batman Forever came out, I actually quite liked it. Then Batman and Robin came out, which was so bad.
So bad.
God,
so bad.
Whoever thought? Actually, this is a good question for you. Live screen, not animated, live screen. Who's your favorite Batman?
Keaton.
And who's your worst?
Clooney. Clooney will always and forever be the absolute worst Batman, which is the most ridiculous thing on the planet because George Clooney is one of the like most dapper actors in all of Hollywood. And so like everybody thought he would be a freaking shoe-in to play that character. He was so terrible. So terrible as Batman.
I feel a bit sorry for him because he was good in like Ocean's 11 and stuff like that, and just this is not a good movie for him. I don't know. The thing is, he doesn't do dark or edgy.
No, he never should have tried to do superhero. Like that is not your bag, George Clooney.
I'm torn who is my favorite. I go between Keaton and Christian Bale. I go between the two of them.
The only person that would ever come close to Keaton for me would be Kevin Conroy, but you said not animated, so.
Well, I mean, he played a sort of evil version of Batman, didn't he, in Batwoman? Oh, you didn't see that episode. You skipped over that episode. You watched season 1 of Batwoman other than the episodes that he was in, or he was in one episode because he was in the Infinite Crisis saga, and you skipped over those.
I skipped that one.
But if you Google it, whenever you get time, Google it. Like, I don't even know if he's in it that long, 5 minutes maybe. Basically, he plays an older version of Bruce Wayne, and I think I can't remember if he murdered the Joker or something or other, but he's basically sort of a darker, evil version of Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
Like, so
get behind that.
But yeah, if you literally type that into YouTube, I'm sure someone's uploaded that scene.
Not that we condone that.
Well, on YouTube, it's okay. Like, I'm sure YouTube has strict copyright things. So, anyway, my overall thoughts: Batman's probably worth watching just so you can have an opinion. Sometimes I'd say no, don't watch stuff if it's really that bad. I think it's worth watching if you want to have an opinion, and I do think actually, artistically, it's actually quite a nice film to watch. I would treat it as a mini series though and break it up an hour a night. I wouldn't.
That is a waste. I'm not giving it 3 days. If I can't finish it in one sitting, I'm not going to finish it.
That's how I would tackle it now. Like I wouldn't.
I would never do that.
The other thing is I would do is put it on like a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, like not at night. Like
not at 8 o'clock at night.
No, I probably would put it on at like 10 in the morning or something like that, and then be done by 1. Yeah, okay, maybe do it like that. Yeah, maybe that's the way to do it. But put it on early so you're wide awake. Like, give it a go. Actually, when it comes on HBO Max, let me know what you think.
Yeah, I will.
Like, but watch it early, like when you're wide awake.
Good to know. Thank you.
Have coffee on standby. Anyway, right. So before the news, there's no news. Instead of the news, we're going to give this a go. So as we were reviewing Morbius, we were like, oh, should we do something else? And like, I came up with this idea of how we used to do verses, which we should bring back.
We should.
Like, I've gone on this website and I've written in,
we've got a list. We came up with a list of vampire characters.
Vampire characters. Some of them are serious. Some of them are way the opposite of serious. I mean, for instance, there's 2 characters in here.
One that Mark had never heard of. I guess it's not a thing.
Well, you hadn't heard of the one you hadn't heard of the one I said either. Yeah. So one of them is a vampire animated animal. I won't say anymore. Then one of them is a vampire who's on a cereal box.
Food. Cereal vampire.
Yeah. So I'm going to press the random button, and Jasmine's going to have the first one, and then I'll have the second one.
All right.
And then me and Jasmine are going to duke it out and argue why one of that, like each one should win. and we will try to be fair and concede if we possibly can.
Come on, give me a good one.
Right, okay, I'm going to press it now. Random name generator. I'm worried now. So this is for you. This is for you. I'm going to scroll down in a second. I'm scrolling down. I'm scrolling down. Okay. Oh, okay. You've got Alucard from Castlevania.
Yes, Castlevania. All right, cool.
Okay,
cool.
all
right.
I'm going to press random name generator.
Okay.
Oh, who am I going to get? Oh, I'm worried. I'm worried. Oh, okay. I got Catherine Pierce from the Vampire Diaries.
Okay, I have no idea who that is, but Alucard wins, just so you know.
So
convince me, come on.
Catherine Pierce is incredibly manipulative.
Okay.
She obviously turned both the brothers from the Vampire Diaries and tends to get her way. She has plans beyond plans beyond plans, and
okay.
The only thing that took her out in the end was the cure. So in the Vampire Diaries, there was the cure that turned her into a human, and unfortunately, because of just luck or whatever, I can't remember what it was that killed her off, but the cure basically she ended up dying. I can't remember why she ended up dying as a human, but she ended up dying as a human. So obviously we're going to go with her being a vampire. She can obviously fight. She's got fast speed, and I think her main thing is that she's manipulative and cunning.
Okay, those are important qualities. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But Alucard is the son of Dracula. Okay, he's the son of Dracula. He has this telepathic ability to control weapons and to control his sword. He is an incredibly skilled fighter. Like, he can take down.
From memory, was Alucard the one that got conned into sleeping with those two people in that bed?
Yeah.
Yeah, Catherine Pierce would definitely take him out.
Yeah, but he also took those two people out before they had a chance to hurt him too bad. And then he put their head on spikes outside of his castle. So
I think I think what I could see happening is Catherine Pierce trying to manipulate him, get him in the bedroom, try and think she's going to take him out, and then he'll just get some sword from the wall to fly across the room and
exactly. Telepathy.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, it's hard to be the telepath, man.
Trouble. I think that's the trouble with telepathy. I think Alucard was definitely going to win.
Yeah. So, I guess we should say telekinesis. Telekinesis, even still.
Telekinesis.
He can make things move with his mind. Okay.
So okay.
That is something that is really hard to beat.
Okay, so I'm going to concede. I do think Catherine Pierce will give it her best shot, but I think if you've got telekinesis, she'll probably pretty effed.
Alucard wins. Flawless victory.
Do you want to have one more go or not?
No, let's just get the real deal over with.
Okay. Do you know what? That was good. I think we should do that again.
Yeah, that was totally fun.
Yeah, okay. All right, go on then.
So anybody listening, you're gonna have to let us know what you think. It was Catherine from the Vampire Diaries versus Alucard from Castlevania. So let us know in the YouTube comments, or hit us up on Twitter or Instagram and let us know who you think would win in a showdown battle between those two vampires.
Okay, so Morbius opened exclusively in theaters worldwide on April 1st. As of April 4th, the film has grossed 86 million worldwide US dollars on its budget of 83 million US dollars. So, I mean, do you know what?
It broke even.
Within a couple of days, it's broke even. So it will make money.
Yeah, because we are doing this review really early in the theatrical run. So it's only been out for 5 days.
So, I mean, if you think about it, within 10 days, it's going to probably at least get to 100 million. And then that's obviously you've got DVDs and Blu-rays and online sales and stuff like that before it gets leaked online. And then, so unfortunately, it's the truth. Like, it will get leaked online. Everybody puts crap online. So, I don't know. What do you reckon? I reckon like 120 million out of the box office.
It'll get closer to 200, I think.
You think so?
In 30 days? Yeah, I think it'll get
okay. Within 30 days. Yeah, all right, then maybe 200. Yeah. So then it will make double its money back. So then I think they'll do a sequel then.
They're going to. They're going to. They have
to. If they do 200 million, I reckon they'll do a sequel.
Yeah, they will. There will be more of this. Yeah. And hopefully it will be better. There is hope, because the very first Spider-Man film that Sony did was not so great, but Spider-Man 2 is arguably far, far better than any of the other Sony Spider-Man films. So
flawless victory with that one.
I mean, I think that's a general consensus, right? Like, wouldn't you say that Spider-Man 2 is better than, well, we all know it's better than Spider-Man 3, but
Oh yeah. Do you know what though? Even Spider-Man 3, there were parts of it I enjoyed. Like, I wouldn't say I hated the entire film.
I mean, we just hated Venom in that film.
Well, and also Peter Parker becoming the Black
Emo.
Spider-Man,
Yeah.
emo Spider-Man.
Wow.
I think if you were to cut out all of the Venom stuff and the emo Peter Parker, that actually wasn't a bad film.
But if you cut
And
that out, you don't
remove
really have much of a film.
no, but like, yeah, I mean, you would have like a mini series or something.
Anyway,
yeah.
what we're saying is there's hope. Just because
Yeah.
the first one is not so great doesn't mean that the franchise can't turn itself around if they decide to turn this into a franchise. So, Morbius. It is based on Morbius, the living vampire, which our characters were created by Roy Thomas and Gil Kane from Marvel Comics. This film is written by Matt Sazama and Burke Sharpless. It is directed by Daniel Espinosa. It stars Jared Leto, Matt Smith, Adria Arjona, Jared Harris, Al Madrigal, and Tyrese Gibson.
Tyrese had like 10 minutes in this film, I swear.
Yeah. But you know what? I actually really like serious Tyrese. Like, I like his serious stuff.
I liked his serious part. Anyway, we'll come back to him later. But yeah, I liked him in this film. I would have liked more of him in this film.
Yes. Okay, so quick and dirty summary. We got a cold open. It opens with basically, like, remember the first trailer where it's like, oh, we get off the helicopter and then there are all these bats in the jungles of Costa Rica and that kind of stuff. So the film opens with that scene, but it's only like 5 minutes. And then we go back. You know how me and Mark feel about flashbacks. So we're back in time. We jump back in time 25 years to when Michael and Lucian, is his actual name, met. Then Michael dubbed Lucian Milo. Yeah. So we go back to the past. We see those two characters and their doctor, played by Jared Harris, how they come together, how they form this brotherhood bond. Then after a little bit, we go back to present day. We're watching Morbius take care of a young patient who has the same condition that he does. And then from here, the film, it just kind of meanders between like incoherent science. Like, there's a whole bunch of sciencey stuff happening on the screen, but like they don't really explain what's going on. There's unearned action sequences, cool but really confusing CGI, dull characters with little to no development, very anticlimactic ending, even more underwhelming connection to both. And then like this, I don't really know how they wanted to connect all of this to either the Sony Shared Universe or to the MCU, but basically they just kind of throw in Michael Keaton at the end, and they're like, "Look, there's the connection," and it's kind of.
We'll talk about that in a bit, like the Shared Universe stuff. But yeah, like I didn't hate that part, but like anyway. So
okay, so but before we get to anything else, we got a bit of trivia. So anybody remember this tiny little film a couple of decades ago? Maybe you've heard of it, Blade. Yeah. Arguably the very first entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Sorry, Iron Man. Okay, so back in 1998, did you know that they had actually cast a character to play, or an actor to play Michael Morbius in the first Blade film in 1998? But the original plan was to introduce Morbius as a cameo and then expand on Morbius's story by the time they get to the second film. But that didn't happen. When they cut the character cameo out of the first film, they just nixed that whole Morbius storyline. But Morbius has been, at least on the Sony side, has been in the picture for quite a long time.
I love that Blade film. It's a shame I didn't have
the first Blade film is, oh my god, so good. And just like the second one, I enjoy the second film. The third Blade film is horrible. But Guillermo del Toro, I think he did a really, really good job with the second Blade film. And just imagine if Guillermo del Toro got his hands on Morbius, like if they had given him this franchise, like
I think that's again
it was something a little bit
in the right hands.
Yeah, so they did approach a couple of like big name action directors before they kind of got into production. They reached out to Antoine Fuqua, who you may have heard of a couple of his films, just, you know, off the top. Training Day, I mean, that was a really big thing for Denzel Washington.
Such a good film.
Replacement Killers, which is one of my favorite shoot 'em up films of all time. Shooter, The Equalizer, Olympus Has Fallen, if you're looking for really fun action sequence set pieces. So they also approached F. Gary Gray, and F. Gary Gray been around the block a lot. The Italian Job, The Negotiator, Set It Off, Straight Outta Compton. So they did approach some like action style kind of directors, but both of them turned down this opportunity, and eventually Sony kind of came to an agreement with Daniel Espinosa, who has done his fair share of action kind of stuff. He did the movie Life most recently, also for Sony, which that's a pretty good space like sci-fi, if I do so myself. He also did Safe House, which was kind of a not that big of a film, but it was still like big personalities. It was Ryan Reynolds and Denzel Washington, so that one was really fun. Anyway, it seems like Sony really wanted to like get the action like front and center. I don't really think they delivered, but we'll get to that. Also, Jared Leto. Same old Jared Leto. If you will remember, when the Suicide Squad, or no, I'm sorry, not the Suicide Squad, when Suicide Squad was first coming out, there were all these stories about Jared Leto and his method acting and how he would send his castmates dead animals and dead rats and like just anything he could to stay in character. And so he did a lot of the same, well, not thankfully not sending dead animals, but he did do a whole lot of method acting, including staying in character. Now, Michael Morbius is he has a debilitating disease, and so the character walks around on crutches because he can't stand on his own. So between takes, if Jared Leto had to go to the bathroom, he stayed in character and went to the bathroom on the crutches. The director,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the director even came out and said, yeah, that rumor is totally true. And sometimes the bathroom breaks would take like 45 minutes because Jared Leto was limping to the bathroom in character as Morbius. And it was just kind of like, at one point they even said that the people on set, like the stagehands and the staff on set, asked him like, can we push you to the bathroom in a wheelchair instead of you like using the crutches to get to the bathroom so that we can move things forward? So just imagine that production is already like delayed because of COVID and all of this other stuff, but now you have Jared Leto like holding up production because he wants to stay in character between takes.
Look, I get it if you've actually got that as a real disability, like, but when you're doing it to stay in character, what about everybody that, like you say,
what about everybody else? Like,
it's a long day as it is. Sometimes they're 12, 14-hour days. So sometimes these days start at 4 or 5 in the morning, and you think you've got to be set.
PA'd on the set of the stuff that is like 15-hour days. It's insane. It's already a long day, and you're making it worse. And you don't have to do that. Like,
also the cost to the studio, like, because they won't. So obviously, they're only. I know you say 15-hour days, but there's going to come a point where they've got to say, look, we've got to let people go home.
Yeah.
And it's like we've wasted 2 hours today on Jared's bathroom breaks.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Like, how could you take that to the producer? Like, hey, why is this shoot taking so long? Well, actually, it's because our lead takes 45 minutes to go to the bathroom. If somebody told me that and I was a producer, I would be like, I'm sorry, what? You're telling me that we're 8 days behind schedule because our lead actor takes 45 minutes to go to the bathroom? How many times a day does he go to the bathroom? That's like insane. I mean, if you go to the bathroom 3 times in the day, like that's already almost a 3 hour. Like, come on, man. Come on. There's method acting, and then there's like, you're being ridiculous.
I mean, maybe stay in character other than the bathroom breaks.
Yeah. Like, yeah. You could still be the persona, but like, you don't have to use the crutches.
Do you know if he did do the wheelchair thing?
No.
Oh,
they offered and he did not accept. He kept
he did. Oh, he didn't do it. Right. Okay.
No.
Wow. Crazy man.
I mean, I think it's better than dead rats. Because like I still remember all of the drama from Suicide Squad. Like, Viola Davis did not like that. Will Smith did not like that. Like, none of the cast
What did
enjoyed.
he do? So, what did he do?
Yeah, like as Joker, like he stayed in character as Joker for Suicide Squad, and so like he would send these really fucked up gifts to the rest of the cast, and at
Oh,
one
because he
point,
thought he was the Joker, right?
yeah,
Okay.
so at one point he sent out dead rats to the cast members, and I distinctly remember Viola Davis and Will Smith being like, this, we ain't never gonna be friends because this is not it, man. This ain't it. Ugh.
I mean, that's just like,
That's a step too far. Come
yeah,
on, that's a step too far. Like,
didn't he?
like you could have sent, those like little plastic teeth that have feet, and you wind them up, and then they just like make noise, right? Like, you could prank people. You could fill someone's trailer with like balloons or popcorn or something.
Where did your
Like,
mind go?
send
Where did
dead
your
rats.
mind go? Yeah, where did your mind go to think? Do you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna prank all my co-stars with dead rats.
Yeah, that's
Like, I don't know where your mind would go to like think like that. Like,
yeah, and not fake rats.
yeah, no, I
I
get
am not
that it's
talking
real.
fake, like real dead animals.
Where do
Can
you
you
ring
imagine?
for that? Where do you ring for that? Hello, 1-800 dead rats. Like, I don't know. Like, or dead pets or something like that. Like,
Oh man.
you need a
So.
dead animal, we'll get you one. Like, I don't know. Like,
So the method acting continues.
or did he go? Or did he go out and go and get rats himself?
I have. Oh God, I have no.
I really want to know.
No
Like,
idea. I don't.
does anyone know?
I don't want to know.
No, I want to know. Like, how did he get these dead rats?
And if they film this in New York, some of those rats that you see in the subways in New York are as big as babies. Like, oh God, I am
Joy.
not. I don't always think of myself as squeamish, but like if I opened a box and inside that box was a dead rat, I would lose my shit. Lose my mind.
Anyway, what's your overall thoughts on this movie?
Oh, overall thoughts on this movie. I thought this movie was boring. It never picked up for me, which was kind of disappointing because I'd heard, of course, like everybody's heard, it's basically getting like a really bad like critical reception. But like I went into it and I was like, all right, everybody says it's a bad film, but it can't be that bad. And I don't think it was like awful, but it wasn't enjoyable. Like it was not an enjoyable watching experience, if that makes sense. So a lot of the CGI, I thought a lot of the CGI was really cool. I just didn't understand what it was trying to accomplish. Like why were they always like, why was there always smoke when he was moving? Or like
I'm assuming that was to emphasize the speed of how fast they were moving, necessarily
okay.
that it being actual smoke. I think it was just to show like visually the speed. Like, I don't know, that was just how I took it. I didn't take it there was actual smoke. I just took it that it was like to emphasize how fast he was moving. So.
I can see if that's what they were trying to do, but it did not come across that way. And it was just like it really looked like, if you remember the second X-Men film, X2, when we get introduced to Nightcrawler and how every time he shifts and he leaves that like trail of smoke or whatever behind him, that's what the CGI looked like in this one. And it was just kind of like, I don't really understand it, because it happened all the time. Like it happened when Morbius was throwing the ball, and then the ball has this weird smoke fog thing to I don't know. Anyway, visually it was really cool looking, but again, to me it didn't make sense plot wise. Like I wish you would have come up with a different way to portray that. But the characters to me are flat, and the progression through the film, like none of the characters have any development or growth at all. None of them. They all remain the same. The only person that has a modicum of change is Matt Smith's character, and he plays Milo. But even that wasn't enough to like pull me along. So it just got to the point where at about the halfway point, I was just like, I don't like. So again, spoiler, but when when it comes to the part where it's revealed that Milo is actually the one that killed the nurse in the hospital, that should be like a, oh, I get it, I see. But at the same time, it was just like, well, obviously it wasn't Morbius. Like,
Mm,
Morbius knew that nurse. He talked to that nurse all the time. Like, he actually had a relationship with that nurse. Like, he would not have just killed that woman.
no.
So it was like there was no suspense. There was none of the surprises landed because nothing was a surprise. Everything was just kind of like, well, that's pretty obvious that this is what's happening. Um,
Even
so
the
I don't.
jumpy bits were obvious. Like they were so
Yeah,
signposted. I didn't
yeah.
jump at all through watching
No,
this.
no, not at all. And like
Um,
it just didn't. It did like it wasn't necessarily slow. It was just dull. Like that's the best way that I can say it. Like this film is just dull.
I think so for me. I think you didn't like it that much, but I didn't hate it. So I would say I probably liked the film.
Uh-huh.
I versus um obviously not liking it. Like no, I went in there with like real low expectations because I'd heard so much bad stuff. I
Mhm.
did catch an article and I didn't read it deliberately, but I did see a headline, like can't remember where it was, like maybe CBR, about how the critics were slating it, but the fans were enjoying it.
Mhm.
And I can see that it's not going to be a critical success.
Yeah.
It's obviously becoming it's made its money back, so it probably will financially be a success, but
Yeah.
not critics wise. Now, as a fan, so I don't know that much about Morbius. I remember seeing him in the
Yeah.
Spider-Man animated series when I was a kid, and I've read probably a couple of his comics, but that is about it. Now, so when I went into this, my knowledge was limited. I think you said that Milo, played by Matt Smith, is what did you say it was called?
In the comics, he is a character called Hunger.
Okay, so I have heard of Hunger as well. I like I said, I didn't hate it. I think Matt Smith as a villain wasn't particularly strong. Like I think, like you said though, his character evolved throughout
Yeah.
the movie from being a child who was a victim of bullying, and then eventually seeing him as sort of quite a rich guy with a disability, to then seeing him become full blown villain. He went through one of the biggest character journeys throughout the film. Michael Morbius himself, he kind of was himself even as a child. Like he kind
Yeah.
of didn't change. The character didn't really grow,
Yeah.
which is unlikely because let's be honest, me versus say some 40 versus 25-year-old Mark. Like 25-year-old Mark was probably a dick. Like so I'm now less of one. Like so like you do get character evolution from even just being a young person to now, where Michael Morbius just didn't seem to have really character progression, even from the child that we saw to this. I think my biggest issue with all of this was actually the final battle between Milo and Morbius. It was so underwhelming. Like it was not the big villain
Nope.
payoff that we
There was
should have probably
zero
had.
payoff. Like just
He was
it was
defeated
none.
so easily.
Yeah.
So
And it
easily.
wasn't even Morbius that defeated him. It was Morbius's bats.
Well, yeah. But no, I would say I sat there and I remember watching this film in the cinema thinking generally I actually don't mind this film.
Mhm.
Like I actually don't think it's too bad, but I didn't love it. But the main reason I wanted to go to this though, and I think probably other people in the same boat, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, but like the connections, we won't talk about it now, but the connections between the MCU and Venom.
Well, yeah, that's just because we're all curious, right?
Yeah,
Like
so it was my
curiosity is
curiosity,
what pulled a
definitely.
lot of people to this.
Yeah, my
Okay, look at
curiosity
it this
got the
way. Like
best of me.
when you look at the Fantastic Four, right? And take your pick of whichever Fantastic Four film. But if I'm looking at the Fantastic Four films, I'm looking at the one with Yoan Grufford, Chris Evans, Jessica Alba. That first Fantastic Four film was a terrible film, but it was so much fun. It was so fun because the characters made it fun. The writing was cheesy and cheeky, and it was just so easy to get into the characters in the film that you almost didn't care that the movie itself was terrible. But this one, it's like the all of the characters in this film are really boring. Like nobody does anything exciting. Michael Morbius, the entire film has like this really even kill monotone way of talking, even in intense situations. And it's just kind of like, dude, you're like literally fighting mercenaries on a ship, and like you're still really quiet and solemn. Like where is the where is the anger or the anything, like any other emotion other than like normal? It's just like none of it was there. None of the characters carried any kind of emotion. Like Matt Smith was the only one that really emoted.
I don't know. Like I say, I think for the most part, I enjoyed this film. Probably wouldn't watch it again. Or if I did, it would be like in, I don't know, 3 years from now, they announced Morbius 2 is coming out. I probably would watch it then, like just to refresh my mind before I go and see number 2. But I'm not that bothered, really. I liked it though. I did like the film. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. So anyway,
I don't think I hated it. I definitely did not like it.
So did you have a favorite and or least favorite character in this film?
It's kind of, I mean, favorite character, not really.
Yeah, I mean, like I said that same last week. I was like, well, I don't know, I hate them all. Like,
yeah, no one really stood out. But like, I don't really have a least favorite either. Because like I want to say like, oh, Martine, just because like I love to see a female scientist like, helping to do awesome things, but like even she wasn't that great. Like, no, I don't have any favorites. Like, everybody was really meh to me.
yeah, I think that what's the girl who becomes a vampire at the end?
Yeah, that's Martine. Martine, Doctor.
I'd probably put her down as my favorite.
Okay, why?
I wouldn't say. I'd say she came across as probably the strongest actor or actress in the movie. I thought she handled her role as well as she could with the material she was provided with. So I think they kind of showed her up to be quite a good actress. I don't know that much about her. So yeah, that's probably it. Like, although it was pretty obvious, I did quite like the fact that she became a vampire and her eyes opened at the very end. Like, so I thought that was quite cool. Like, I have to see what she's going to be like if they ever make a sequel. I don't know. Like, to be honest, she came across as quite a strong character as well. She was obviously supportive of Morbius, but she seemed like she could stand her own. So I think that was it. I think least favorite character though, like I don't know if I have. I strongly disliked most of them. So like, I would say like if I was, I would say she's probably my favorite, but then everybody else is kind of just meh.
Yeah.
I would actually say, in all honesty, I think Jared Leto is probably the worst in this film. But again, I don't hate the film. Yeah. It's a bit like what I said about Halle Berry's Catwoman. It's a terrible movie, but I actually quite like it. So, have you seen that film?
Yeah, I am not in agreement with your.
No, so it's a terrible film. But what I mean is like.
But I mean, I have my share of like horrible films that I love, so I get it.
I mean, it's like a Saturday afternoon film. You can't be bothered to put something on. You can put Catwoman on, and you can tune in and out of it. Like if it's on, it's non-offensive. I think we're probably in this stage of Morbius. It's probably not offensive, but it's not the best film ever. So I would say it's in the non-offensive category. Okay, so let's get into like views on where we think this sits in our shared multi-universe. So my view is, and I think they have said this anyway, this is set in the same universe as Venom from the Venom 1 and Venom Let There Be Carnage. Now, Jared Leto does make a joke about him being Venom in the movie, which was an unnecessary joke, but clearly done to push the fact that, just to remind the audience, this is in a shared universe. The two detectives, though, did that earlier in the film, and they said, oh, we haven't had anything this bad since that thing in Seattle. And I thought...
San Francisco. And
I thought, why on earth would you suddenly, two random cops in New York, go, oh, we haven't had anything this bad since San Francisco? And I was like you would even heard of it. Or maybe they would have done, but like,
I think aliens fighting in any city in the US, you would hear about it no matter where you are.
but I don't know. Like, I just felt like there's not a chance that they would themselves be aware.
Yeah,
Of
nothing was
everything.
natural. Like they didn't work anything into this film naturally. Everything was forced. Like, there was nothing subtle. Because like I think they're in one of the trailers, like Morbius is running by and there's a wanted poster of Spider-Man, but I don't remember seeing that in the film. Maybe I
I don't
blinked.
remember seeing that in the film.
I
I don't
don't
remember seeing
remember
that in the
that.
film.
Um,
So I don't
but
remember seeing
like,
that in the film.
yeah,
And I
so
think that was
there's
done
no
to mislead
subtle
us.
stuff. Yeah, it could have been. It could have been. Like everything was very like, here, let me just give this to the audience. And it was kind of like, if you are putting another part into this big sort of shared universe, now whether that shared universe is Sony or the MCU, you shouldn't have to hand everything over on a silver platter to the audience. Like, if you're going to work it in, you have got to assume that your audience is coming in with enough knowledge that if you just put some things in there, they will pick up on them. And so this film doesn't have there's no nuance, nothing is subtle. It's very much like you said, that like such a throwaway line when he's fighting with that guy. That guy's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I am Venom." And I'm
But
like,
no one laughed.
yeah, like that was your
no one even
perfect
laughed in the
opportunity
cinema.
to tout yourself or to just
I
be
also
honest.
I also thought that when he said it, he was very quiet.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Like he just
overly
did
clear.
like that little tiny face shift back to like vampire face that he was like, "I'm Venom." And that was it. And I'm just like,
but he could have laughed afterwards. Like,
well, in the trailer, in one of the trailers, he says that, and then he says, "I'm just kidding. I'm Michael Morbius."
But that didn't happen in the
that
film.
did not happen in the film at all.
That's what annoys me about the trailers when they do this, show something and edit it. So then when you go into the film, it's not there. So I forgot about that. But yeah, actually, it's probably worth watching the trailer before I went to the film. But anyway, so I think what we've got here is it's set in the Sony universe. We've got the Daily Bugle paper.
Yep.
We obviously misled, in the movies to show a wanted poster of Spider-Man, which I think was deliberate. Because I had felt this whole time that this movie was going to be in the MCU. Like,
this movie was supposed to come out before Far From Home, but because of COVID, like it kept getting pushed back. So I think that they didn't really know how this was going to fit with Far From Home. And like that post scene where we see like the sky opening, kind of like when the multiverse or whatever is happening. And and then Adrian pops up. Like, I mean, I think they had that Adrian thread from Homecoming, like from the first Spider-Man film. Like that was gonna be their connection. And so like it feels really disjointed because it came out in the wrong order, due to outside circumstances. But like, I don't know, even that seemed really forced. It was just kind of like, the sky's open. Oh no, there's this empty cell. Oh no, now suddenly there is a person in this cell that was not there before. But like everybody knows who this guy is. And so like the way that they play it is kind of like, this, event happens and now we have Adrian Toomes in jail and no one knows why and he's soon to be released.
Just out, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like, I'm sorry, what? Like you literally just like opened the door, threw a guy in there, and then the next scene that we see is like him in full Vulture garb, like talking to Morbius, and is like, you know what? This whole thing is Spider-Man's fault. And it's just like,
so obviously when they showed the trailer, they showed obviously, like you said, the Spider-Man wanted poster. They showed Michael Keaton. I don't know if it was one or two scenes, but it kind of implied to me that they were really trying to push this film into the MCU.
Yeah.
Even if it was Sony had decided, you know what, we're going to make Morbius and we're going to send MCU, whether Disney like it or not.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt it was going. I did not realize that they were going to essentially use the events of No Way Home to bring in Doctor Strange as well. Like, because I know, sorry, I'm getting now. Like, I didn't know they were going to use No Way Home, to bring in Toomes. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. Yeah. I didn't know that's how they were going to do it. I thought it was going to be set in the MCU. But when that did happen, I was like, okay, cool. I was like, okay, I quite like that. I respect the fact that maybe Sony and Disney have come up with a deal that this is like an alternate Earth kind of thing. So when they brought Adrian Toomes in, yeah, okay, like putting him in prison was a bit rubbish, and the way they met was a bit rubbish. Seeing him in the full Vulture garb at the end, I was like, how did that happen? Like,
where did he get that shit from? Like,
yeah.
how is it
Unless
that if
that
you
just
were not
crossed
part
over
of this
too.
universe before, and also like how are you that self-aware? How is it that you pop up and you're just like, oh my god, well maybe things aren't so bad in this world, and he literally makes a comment like that, and I'm like, how would that be your first thought?
He's like, I hope the food's
maybe
better
the
on
food's
this
better
joint.
here. Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, come on. I just didn't, like I said, everything was for, like you mentioned the Daily Bugle earlier. I will concede that the way that the paper is always in this film, that was the only natural thread that they had, where it's like the Daily Bugle is everywhere and they're always reading the Daily Bugle. But like every other introduction or person that is related to the MCU or any other Sony film was literally, it was just like, here audience, here, take this character we're handing over to you. And it's just like, guys, like,
I mean, as we've already talked about it, so the film wraps up, titles start, whatever. Then we get, like you say, Adrian Toomes in prison. You see the sky going crazy like it did at the end of No Way Home. Adrian Toomes suddenly shows up in a jail cell. He gets let out, and then gets on the tiles. Then we get another cutscene of Morbius, like in the middle of nowhere, and Adrian Toomes full Vulture garb. Now, I didn't think they were going to show the full Vulture outfit in this movie, because I also did think, how's he going to get it? Because they didn't have the Chitauri and all the rest of it.
Where did he get that from? Come on. And like, literally, did you just walk to your house and your wife and kids were like, yo man, what's up? Like, what the hell? Come on.
I want to know more. But anyway, so he proposes to Morbius about teaming up now. Does that mean as a villain or as good guys? Because he said, we could do some good. Are they now trying to push Adrian Toomes being a good guy?
Are they trying to build a Sinister Six? What are they doing?
I don't know. I don't think they know what they're doing.
I don't
either. So we've got here now Venom, the Vulture, and Morbius all in the same universe. Now, I didn't read it, but I saw an article headline, I think it might have been CBR or Bleeding Cool, I can't remember, about the only way to potentially save this Sony shared universe is to bring Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man into it. Now, like, if they did something like that, this might be pretty cool. Like, imagine seeing Andrew Garfield going up against Venom, the Vulture,
well,
Morbius.
They played that card very heavy in No Way Home, because Andrew was like, am I the only one here that has not fought an alien? And the other two Peter Parkers are like, yeah, I guess so.
So that would be cool. Like, I'd love it if Andrew Garfield got Spider-Man 3 or some sort of Andrew Garfield team-up movie or versus what of these lot would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. To me, it just seems really disjointed. Like, I think that they are fine with the idea of this being connected to everything else, but they did not know how to do that. They didn't know how to make that connection. And so what we got is to me, it's very just like disjointed.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, to be honest, nice segue, Jasmin. The structure of the film. So you said you feel it's disjointed. I think it flowed generally okay. I didn't like the jumping back and forth in the first 20 minutes of the flashbacks and stuff like that. Starting with Jared Leto being an adult. I would have been more than happy if they'd been brave enough to start with the kids.
I really liked that they started with the action. I love a really cold open where like you don't always know what's going on.
No, I didn't want to go back to the kids.
You know how I feel about flashbacks. Like, I think that they use flashbacks to very poor effect here. Like that.
I would say overall, though I say I didn't hate this film, I think it didn't have a strong enough cast. I think the villain, unfortunately, Matt Smith, not saying he's a terrible actor, but was probably the wrong choice for the villain.
I would disagree with that. I think
I just didn't find he was strong enough.
Villain. I don't think that the cast was weak. I think that they were not used effectively.
No,
I think because you don't much like Jared Leto. I think Jared Leto is actually a really good character actor. But he is sort of boxed in this one. And so it's like they brought his temperature way down when he could have given this character so much more than what we actually got.
Yeah. I don't know. I think for me, it was the curiosity that got me there. I didn't mind the pacing of the film. I would say that it probably did go towards slow more than fast because it's an action film. I would say that maybe that's beneficial for, like, I don't know, like maybe if you're new, like to the Marvel and the comics and stuff like that. Like if you don't know at all, think the bringing in of the Vulture at the end that's the only issue with that. If you don't know what's going on, if you don't know anything about Venom or Spider-Man, you just went and watched Morbius. I think the slowness probably worked well in terms of trying to build this universe and this characters and the characters and stuff like that. But I would say then it kind of gets ruined by just shoving the Vulture in at the end. Because if you're like, oh, I've never seen Spider-Man before, better go watch.
I don't always think that that's a bad thing, because I saw Winter Soldier before I saw the first Captain America. And so in the theater, when Winter Soldier's mask comes off and Steve Rogers is like, Bucky? Yeah. I was literally like, who the fuck is Bucky? Like, I have no idea who that is. Like, but to me, it didn't take anything away from it, because obviously this guy was important to Steve. So like, even if I don't know these characters, like, the actors can pull you through a scene if you don't know all of the parts that are going on. But that doesn't happen here. Like, you could tell that there was like sexual tension between Morbius and Martine, but when they finally kissed, it was like there was no buildup at all to this. Like, this feels very out of place. Like, this is bad. Like, that was terrible pacing. Like, there's just so many things. Like, and Matt Smith going from 0 to 60 like so fast. Like, he literally went from like, dude, you're my best friend, you're like a brother to me, like, don't leave me hanging, to fuck it, let's take over the world. I was like, that was a really, like, I mean, you flipped that real quick, Matt Smith.
Is there anything you'd cut or change about this film?
I mean, yeah, it's far too much to list here, but
like all of it.
Not necessarily all of it. Like, I did enjoy the scene on the tanker, when they're on the boat. I did enjoy watching Morbius fly. I thought that was pretty cool, that was really cool. But I just, this really needed like an injection of adrenaline or something. It just did not meet my expectations of what I would want to see in a vampire film, B, in something that is connected both to the MCU and to the Sony universe. Like, it just wasn't moving fast enough for me.
No, I think a sequel probably is going to be pretty good. Like, if they're going to have the Vulture in it and Morbius, and like if they do bring Andrew Garfield back as Spider-Man and say this was always set in his universe, that would be pretty cool. Like, to finally redeem Andrew Garfield. The only trouble with that though is he was great in No Way Home, but not his own movie. So we're gonna put him back with Sony and
but if you put him with a different director, I think that could work better, because we saw him work better with a different director in No Way Home. But I will say, I think that there is a lot of potential with the character of Morbius. I think but I guess it's like a case of like the left hand not talking to the right hand. Like, you guys have to get on the same page first before you work on this sequel, because like, I just feel like they left so much stuff on the table. And I understand like world building and you got to set it up and you have to take the time to get to know these characters, but they didn't even do that in this film. Like, this is literally everyone's first introduction to Morbius. But there was no, like, I guess they think that the whole bit with the hospital when they're kids at the very beginning of the movie is enough for us to kind of get a good read on Morbius as a character. But it's like, no, no, because like he literally went from like, oh my god, look at this poor pitiful kid, to like the next scene is him and
He's
Martine,
villain,
and
yeah.
Martine is like, so are we injecting like vampire bat DNA into human DNA? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, come on.
I know, where's he made that jump from? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like, yeah, there. I think a lot of the issues that I have with this film are very basic. Like, it is at its core, the problems here are all in the scripting.
Mm-hmm.
And in the original outline and in the original layout. Like, you have the elements there, you have the actors there, but on paper you do not have this film laid out and set up the way that it needed to be.
Mm-hmm. I think, like I say, I'll come back to generally I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was a bad film. I liked going to cinema and watching it. I felt like it wasn't awful. I think probably nice little segue here into ratings. I probably would go 3 out of 5.
2.
I mean, it's not too bad. Like, I think for me, like I say, I enjoyed what I watched, and I know that it was slated by the critics, but I think like some of the fans have quite liked it. So I would say that I was in 3 margin, and I would say that probably a lot of why I wanted to watch this was curiosity over knowing it would be terrible. I kind of ignored that it was terrible and thought, you know, I'm just gonna say, like, I don't know, these are the films I want to watch this week or whatever. So
I have a soft spot in my heart for vampires. I am a fan of vampires, so
me too,
I'm always going to give vampires a chance. Now, this film is miles and miles better than any of the Twilight entries. Okay, it is not that bad, but it literally is so forgettable. Like, there is nothing about this film that is going to make you want to run up to someone else and be like, oh my god, did you see Morbius?
Oh,
like,
yeah, no, I'm not going to tell people to watch
nothing about this film that makes
I don't think I'd even really watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's nothing about this film that makes you want to revisit it, to go back and like take another look at something, or to ask more questions about it. It's just kind of like,
nah. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're kind of done there, really. Like, I think, like we say, I kind of didn't mind it. So happy with 3 out of 5. You didn't mind it / didn't like it. Like, so
I didn't enjoy it. I didn't hate it. It wasn't like horrible, awful, disgusting. It was just like, it was just boring. Like, it is literally one of those things that you don't even like. I'm probably not going to remember half this film next week.
Okay, so bring our conversation to an end there. Next episode, we're going to review a graphic novel, first of the year, Blade Runner Origins Volume 1. I believe it's 5 issues, and yeah, so join us next week for that.
Yep.
And in the meantime, you can follow us on social media. We are Geeks Unleashed on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Come say hi.
And you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts: Google, Podbean, Apple, Spotify. We are everywhere. So please give us a 5-star review and tell your geeky friends.
Before we go, like, for those who paid attention, me and Jasmin will be meeting each other for the first time in real life.
For the first time in 10 years.
The weekend this comes out.
I have known Mark longer than his youngest daughter has been alive.
Oh, it's crazy. Like, so, and we may be meeting some other people too. So yeah, this weekend, the weekend this comes out. Well, we would have actually already met by the time this comes out. So you're obviously going to schedule it. You're going to schedule it ahead. But yes. So anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Good journey.
Good journey indeed.